Welcome to This Explainer. Every single election year, millions of us cast our ballots. But have you ever actually stopped to wonder what happens behind the scenes? Like, what really goes on between registering to vote and a new leader taking office? Well, today we're going to demystify the entire election process from start to finish. To do this, we're going to follow the journey of an ordinary fictional American voter named Alex. By stepping into his shoes, we'll get a first-hand look at exactly how the gears of democracy turn.
Okay, so here's our roadmap for today. We're going to break this down into 5 quick steps: the American voter, primary and general elections, casting your ballot, behind the polling place, and finally, the Electoral College.
All right, step 1, the American voter and who can actually participate. Before our voter Alex can even think about casting a ballot, we need to lay down the ground rules of who gets to be part of this whole democratic process.
So, how exactly does voting work in America? Well, here's the wild thing. There really isn't just one single way that America votes. It's kind of a giant puzzle, because the process has so many moving parts depending on exactly where you live. Since elections are run locally by states and counties, Alex's experience in one state could look completely different from yours in another.
Now, to get in on a federal election, the U.S. Election Assistance Commission has a few universal baselines. Basically, you've got to be a U.S. citizen, at least 18 years old by Election Day, and a legal resident of your community. Simple enough, right? But hey, fun fact for you, North Dakota is literally the only state in the country that doesn't actually require you to register beforehand. Crazy, right? But for the rest of us, registration is step 1.
When Alex gets around to registering, he's got options. He can do it online, by mail, or just walk right into a government office. But, and this is absolutely crucial, the deadlines and procedures are all over the map depending on your state. I mean, some states let you register the very same day you vote, while others need your paperwork weeks in advance. So always double-check your local rules.
Moving right along to step 2, primary and general elections, or narrowing the field. Because once you're registered, you realize pretty fast that not all elections on the calendar are doing the same thing.
Think of it this way. Before the main event, political parties have to figure out who their champion is going to be. That's exactly what primaries and caucuses are for. They help parties pick their specific candidates. Now, depending on where you live, these primaries might be open to anybody or closed, meaning you have to be a registered party member to vote in them. The general election? Well, that's the big show where we actually decide who wins the federal, state, or local office.
All right, step 3, casting your ballot and making your voice heard. Now that Alex is all set and the general election is creeping up, let's look at how he actually cast that vote.
You know, voting doesn't always mean standing in a super long line on a Tuesday in November anymore. A lot of states offer early in-person voting, which gives you days or sometimes even weeks to get it done. Plus, there are absentee or mail-in options. Alex could literally just get his ballot in the mail, fill it out at his kitchen table over coffee, and drop it in a secure box. But again, eligibility and deadlines for all of this totally depends on your state.
Now, this is something I find really incredible: the sheer accessibility of the American ballot. Depending on local demographics, ballots are actually translated into dozens of languages across different counties. We're talking Hindi, Croatian, Japanese, French, Spanish, the whole shebang. It's a massive effort just to make sure every single eligible citizen can clearly understand their choices and get involved.
Which brings us to step 4, behind the polling place. Let's peek at the people in the process keeping this whole thing running.
When you actually get to the polling place, you're greeted by the absolute unsung heroes of democracy: poll workers. These are just everyday citizens volunteering their time. As the U.S. Election Assistance Commission points out, these folks are tasked with checking voters in, handing out ballots, and meticulously, and I mean meticulously, maintaining the chain of custody for all the equipment and supplies. They keep the whole system secure.
So what exactly happens after Alex fills in those bubbles and slides his ballot into a scanner or lockbox? Well, that's just the beginning of the ballot's life cycle. Election officials have to follow strict state laws to process, count, and verify every single vote. It's a highly controlled, step-by-step procedure to make absolutely sure everything is accurate and secure.
And honestly, this rigorous verification is exactly why we rarely get final results on election night anymore. I know, we all love instant gratification, but real democracy takes time. Officials have to carefully count mail-in ballots that might arrive right on election day, plus provisional ballots. Then comes the canvassing and the final certification, all running on the state's specific timeline.
Finally, step 5, the Electoral College. This is a huge structural pivot in our explainer because electing the President of the United States works differently than literally any other office on the ballot.
A lot of first-time voters are totally surprised to learn that we don't actually elect the president through a single national popular vote. If Alex votes for a governor or a senator, whoever gets the most votes just wins. Simple. But for the presidency, nope. The U.S. uses a unique state-based system called the Electoral College.
So here's the math. Across the entire country, there are exactly 538 electoral votes up for grabs. But where does that random number come from? Well, it's based on each state's representation in Congress. That means their number of House representatives, plus their 2 senators, and then you add exactly 3 electors assigned to Washington, D.C.
To actually win the presidency, a candidate has to hit the magic number, a majority of at least 270 electoral votes. And almost all states award these on a winner-take-all basis, meaning if you win the popular vote in a state by even 1 ballot, you get 100% of that state's electoral votes. Actually, the only exceptions are Maine and Nebraska, which can split their votes proportionally. But everywhere else, winner takes all.
As we've seen through Alex's journey today, the American voting system is far from just one big national event. It's really thousands of local, uniquely managed elections happening all at once. Knowing how this maze works is half the battle. Because in a system where state margins can be razor thin and local rules dictate the process, the ultimate question isn't just who you're going to vote for. It's whether you realize just how much weight your single, localized decision carries in shifting the entire balance of power. So, will you take the time to know your state's process and make your voice count? Thanks for joining us for this explainer, and we'll see you next time.